Hey guys, welcome back to the channel for my Season 15 ranking updates. The purpose of this video is to determine how Crystalized would compare to the other 17 installments of Ninjago. For example, we're going to take a look at the intro, season premiere, villain, and more. And rather than remaking every single video, I'm compiling it all into this big ranking updates video. And first up is the intro. Crystalized has a standard Wild Brain intro, which shows recaps. The Weekend Whip is back after not being in the 2021 intros, and I feel like this rendition is really good. It feels very exciting and incorporates the lyrics pretty well. I also like that the overture is something you can hear in this intro too. As far as the visuals go, I really like the crystal setting and the theme. The recaps, yeah, it's whatever. It's not my favorite style for an intro, and even the better Wild Brain intros are held back by this style. And so going over to the list, Crystalized is ranked somewhere towards the middle. I have it as the second best Wild Brain intro, only below season 13. Yeah, it was a fun intro. It was pretty dynamic. Definitely more exciting than the laid-back 2021 intros, but ultimately it is a recap intro, and these are just not as good as the older intros. They just don't have the same personality and charm, but Hunted, I think, is definitely still the best intro. Very, very exciting. Great intro. Crystalized is the first and only season that doesn't have any new main antagonists. Every villain here is a returning character, and there's 7 of them. The main villain is the Overlord, and at this point I feel like we could just say he's the main villain of the entire show. I would say Crystalized is the Overlord's best season compared to seasons 2 and 3, for a few reasons. He had more screen time, his design and overall feeling was better, his motivation and plan was cooler, but was it a huge improvement? Probably not. It was an improvement, for sure, but not a massive one. Asphira is another improvement. I feel like she works better as a supporting antagonist than a main antagonist, where she's just not that interesting, such as in season 11. It was interesting to see her initially helping the ninja, and also she got recast, and the new voice is fine. I honestly didn't even know she got recast until I saw the credits. Pythor was also really good here. I felt like he was very fun, and kept the same charm he had in earlier seasons. I also feel the same way about the mechanic. He doesn't do too much here, but his presence was nice. I feel like compared to the other villains, Vangelis just had less to do. He just didn't have as many individual scenes. So no, he wasn't bad, but he wasn't great either. He was fine. And same for Mr. F, he's a silent character, he doesn't speak at all, and he's in a season with 6 other villains, so no, he doesn't stand out. Last but definitely least is Ruby. I feel like this character was a huge downgrade. The big issue is her death in season 9 was perfect. It was the natural, poetic way to end the character, but her redemption here is pretty bad actually. So it feels like they brought her back just to do something worse. So here's the final list. The Overlord goes up 1 spot after Crystalized, and despite how awful she was here, I'm not moving Ruby down because she was great in seasons 8 and 9, and nothing changes that. As for other minor changes, I think I moved Iron Baron up and Chen down, and the other council villains not really moving around. If the mechanic were to be in this list, he'd probably be above Asphira and below Acronics. And next up is villain motives. The Overlord's motive here is peace in the dark. Basically, the Overlord wants to destroy both sides of the balance. And this worked nicely with the knowledge from season 8, that the Odian Dragon exists, which wasn't something we had in seasons 2 or 3. This season nicely establishes him as a third force that just wants to destroy everything. Although he probably wasn't too truthful about peace, because he gives this speech about the Great Devourer in episode 29. He was probably just power hungry. So this list is going to have the Overlord at 7th place. The other major change is the Iron Baron moved up a ton, because I feel like his motives appear boring, but they're pretty complex and relate nicely to the real world. Ruby is still in the top spot because of season 8, and none of the other council members were impacted by season 15. Next up, we're going to take a look at premieres. Crystalized has a really good premiere. It has the premise of the ninja team being divided and reuniting, which is kind of like season 4 and season 8. However, it feels different each time. Of course, the big factor here was grief following Nia's disappearance. I love the way Lloyd's grief is portrayed. In season 4, he was the more upbeat one, but here he's definitely taking it personally. And Jay's portrayed nicely too. The episode, while not as good as season 4's premiere, manages to make itself feel different by focusing on different characters and offering new responses. But the episode also has great world building. It's been a year since Seabound, and the episode makes it clear that a lot has changed, especially with the new ninja. This one is definitely in the upper tier of premieres, only below seasons 4, 5, and 9. Overall, a pretty emotional episode, and nicely advanced the plot, especially the Venshow's story. Unfortunately, I'm not so kind on the season finale. I don't hate this episode, but I definitely don't love it. Roots to me was really underwhelming. It just felt very low stakes, and it was too reminiscent of Season 2. The final battle feels just like Season 2's battle, except, again, worse. And the Overlord's defeat offers no conclusion. I also feel like this final battle was way too short, and the 11-minute format just doesn't work for finales. I do feel like Garbada's conclusion was really good and a great place to end the character. But ultimately, this finale is more interested in providing a happy and ideal ending rather than shaking up the status quo. And I respect that that was the conscious decision of the creators, but it's not something I personally agree with. And that's why Roots is the worst season finale of the show. This is definitely going to seem extreme to most of you, but honestly, that's my opinion. I feel like it's very similar quality to endings, the season 10 finale, which also wasn't that great, but had more powerful scenes, such as the Tornado of Creation. But honestly, at some point in the future, I could probably switch Roots and endings, but for now, Roots is below. And I feel like the majority of season finales are good. And Awakenings and above, all good episodes. Endings and Roots are by no means horrible episodes. They're just mediocre. They're not that great. And speaking of not that great, Crystalized is Nia's worst season in the entire show. This wasn't a ranking video, but it is an update to a video I made back in 2019. Previously, Nia's worst season was season 3, but Crystalized takes that spot, offering nothing meaningful to Nia's character, choosing to go back to the status quo instead of maintaining an interesting change from season 14. As Samurai X, Nia is right away cast to the side, and shown as secondary to the ninja. Literally all she does is rescue them twice. Oh, but then it gets worse when her powers start to return out of nowhere. Yeah, this character doesn't really develop or change or learn any lessons in Crystalized. I feel like a cool story here could have been about Nia's identity. She's lost her powers, her biggest fear, and a huge part of her character, and now she has to deal with the fact that she doesn't have them anymore. And she'd be forced to forge a new identity. But no, Nia gets her powers back because powers are cool. This is the biggest example of Crystalized choosing to tell a happy, perfect story instead of a strong story. And it's just such a sad way for Nia's character to conclude. And the final thing to take a look at is ranking the seasons. Usually I'll post the full ranking list with the new season, but I'm actually not going to today. Because right now I'm creating the next ranking the seasons video, and I'd rather you see the list there than here, because there's going to be some pretty big changes. But I will offer some final thoughts on Crystalized, as well as an idea of where it'll fall in my ranking. Crystalized was a good season, and I like it. It was certainly enjoyable, but I don't love it. I feel like there were some really big writing errors here, the big two being Nia and Ruby, and to a lesser extent, Lloyd. But there was definitely good stuff. It's very high quality in terms of animation and visuals. Garbada's story was pretty good, and 6 out of 7 villains were also good. But Crystalized being good doesn't mean it's not disappointing. This season is very underwhelming because it had so much potential, and it doesn't live up to that potential. Again, I'm not going to show the full list, but I will say that right now, Crystalized is number 10 in my ranking of the 18 Ninjago installments. This is a middle tier season. It's decent, it's good, but it's not anything above that. And I feel like in the case of Crystalized specifically, it is disappointing for sure. It has a lot of the same issues that seasons 2 and 10 had. And after 3 average finale seasons, I'm convinced that Ninjago just isn't good at writing these types of seasons. But that is about all for my coverage of Crystalized. This was the last of 4 big videos that I wanted to create after the season finished. And most likely I will not be covering the 2023 series as extensively as I have with past seasons. It's been a long road since the first Crystalized trailer in April, but I hope you guys have enjoyed the coverage and detailed reviews of Ninjago Season 15 Crystalized, the final season of Ninjago's first series. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, subscribe, share with anyone ever you know, share your rankings of Crystalized, and I'll see you guys next time.